Good evening, I'm David Brown, and this is the Northern Sun Experience. The football season is very early, but there's already a growing sense of optimism around Minnesota State Moorhead. The Dragons officially dedicated their new playing surface at Shields Field on September 3rd with a dominating 42-17 win over Winona State. Now, MSUM's last winning season was in 2006, which was also the last time they started 2-0. Dragons hoping to duplicate that success in a tough road test at Concordia-St. Paul, but they would hit the ground running literally. Zane Medhog goes up the left side, splits the defense, and he is gone. 66 yards to pay dirt, 7-0 Dragons. Back come the Golden Bears. Ben Schramsky works the read option to perfection, fools the entire Dragon defense, and we're tied at 7 on the 1-yard scamper. Dragons add a field goal up 10-7 in the third. Medhog stretches across the goal line from 5 yards out, 17-7 MSU Moorhead. Back and forth we go. Later in the third, Concordia's Jay Parker with a 2-yard run cuts the lead back to 3 at 17-14. Golden Bears take their first lead in the fourth. Schramsky up top to Sammy Bockham, 69-yard pitch and catch, 21-17 Concordia. Dragons come back less than 2 minutes later. Jake Hodge to Adam Jiskra, who somehow corrals it despite the interference, 24-21 Moorhead. Less than 2 minutes to go, this is where the drama starts. First, it's Schramsky finding Vantuan Melton, 28-24 Concordia. Moorhead fumbles their next possession, gets the ball back after using timeouts, and with 3 seconds left, here we go. Hodge, chased out of the pocket nearly 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, throws it up, it's tipped and caught by Corey Ambrose in the back right corner for the game-winning score. Unbelievable finish, you've got to see it again. A very close play, but after the tip by Damon Gibson, Ambrose barely gets a foot in, and that will do it. MSU Moorhead wins a thriller over Concordia-St. Paul, 30-28. Well, despite Concordia's last-second loss, there is a bit of good news for a former Golden Bear. Defensive end Zach Moore, a member of last season's Super Bowl champion New England Patriots, signed with the Minnesota Vikings practice squad just before the start of the season. And Zach is kind enough to join us right now on the phone. First of all, Zach, how does it feel to be a Minnesota Viking?
I think it's a great opportunity to be on the NFL team, period. Just continue to work hard for different setting, different teams, same mentality of doing what I have to do to improve as a player.
Have you heard anything from any of your old Concordia teammates or coaches yet?
But yeah, I got, quite a few text messages from a lot of family, friends, coaches, college teammates, they're excited for me. I'm excited for myself to have this opportunity. It was a tough journey coming from there. I'm thankful that they gave me the opportunity to play college football. I had a blast there. I'll forever be a Golden Bear, and now I'm right down the street, so I'm able to see them, more often. So, it was a great feeling to be a Golden Bear.
Now, Zach, you were cut by the New England Patriots after the preseason. So what made you decide to come to the Vikings?
That's a decision that my agent made. I did have other offers, but I just thought this was the best fit. I went to school out here, so I'm pretty familiar with the state. So it's not, anything different.
Now, Zach, I know it was difficult being cut, but what was that 2014 season like for you, being a part of a Super Bowl championship team just as a rookie?
A definite, long, hard-working season. Put a lot of time and effort into it, and ultimately came out as a world champion. So that's 2014 in a nutshell. And every day was a blessing to be there. So I thank the Patriot organization for giving me the opportunity to play next level NFL football.
I know you've only been with the Vikings for a short time, but have you noticed any big differences in terms of preparation between the Pats and your new team?
Yeah, I think every team is different in retrospect to how they prepare to, play games on, Sundays or whatever. But, it's kind of fun learning different systems, learning how they run things, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, Zach, I think everyone wants to know, what's head coach Mike Zimmer like, especially coming from New England and their revered coach, Bill Belichick?
He's a real cool guy. He really puts emphasis on, working your technique, working your craft, making sure you're in the right place to, do what's asked of you as a player. And, I'm happy to, play under him.
And how about your teammate, Zach? Do you feel there's a camaraderie that's already being established?
It's a real laid-back crew of guys, specifically in the D-line room. Everyone is willing to help out each other. It's a real brotherly environment. They're willing to help out. If anyone has any questions or concerns about anything, so it's been pretty good.
And finally, Zach, what's the last month been like for you? I imagine it's been quite the whirlwind.
It's been, a change of pace month, being there and then now I'm here. So, just stick to what I'm doing, work hard, make sure I'm in my playbook day in and day out, and, improving as a player each day.
That again was Zach Moore, the newest member of the Minnesota Vikings. Well, when we come back on the Northern Sun Experience, more football highlights from around the area, including another last-minute finish in Marshall.
The Northern Sun Experience on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Dakota Land Honda.
And welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. Well, the last time Southwest Minnesota State topped Bemidji State, Y2K was 3 years away. Since 1997, the Beavers have defeated the Mustangs 13 consecutive times. Bemidji hoping to make it 14 straight as they took on SMSU in Marshall. They're up 14-7 in the second when the Mustangs' Devontae Stevens zigs and zags his way to the end zone. 6-yard score cuts it to 14-13. Time winding down in the first half, but SMSU strikes yet again before time runs out. Blake Gimble to Raphael Lawson Gable. Forget Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, this guy's the new law firm. 12-yard touchdown, 20-16 Mustangs at the break. The back and forth continues in the third. Bemidji State's Jordan Hine to Vince Dinkle. Great catch in the corner. 10-yard strike. Beavers retake the lead 23-20. Move to the end of the game. 30-27 Bemidji with less than a minute to go. But Gimble finds Nate Hewitt on the comeback. 13-yard touchdown with 21 seconds left. And that's your ball game. The streak is finally over. Southwest Minnesota State tops Bemidji State for the first time in 18 years. 34-30 is your final. Well, let's stay in Minnesota. Winona State hosting its home opener against Minot State. Warriors up 10-7 in the second and going long. Jack Nelson to Allen May, 62 yards to the house. Winona State takes a 17-7 lead. And how about we give some love to special teams? End of the first half, Winona's Carter McCauley from way downtown. 53-yard field goal gives the Warriors a 20-7 lead, and it sets a new school record. Now that record stood for approximately a quarter and a half. In the fourth, McCauley from 54 yards out this time, still 5 short of the all-time NSIC record, but a great accomplishment nevertheless. The Warriors top Minot State 38-7. The only matchup between 1-0 teams pit St. Cloud State at Augustana, and the Huskies strike first on this 2-yard scamper from Jaden Huff, 7-0 St. Cloud State. But the story of this game would be the Say Hayes kid. Augustana's Charlie Hayes breaks free for this 18-yard touchdown. We're tied at 7, and Hayes is just getting started. Start of the second quarter, Huskies try to match the Vikings' air attack. Great catch by Matt Henches. St. Cloud is back on top. Let's move to the fourth now, tied at 27. Vikings with some trickery as Trey Hyde gets the wide receiver reverse pass, makes a nifty move into the end zone. 34-27 Augie at that point, and a few minutes later, Hayes with his 4th touchdown in the back of the end zone. Another fantastic grab, a career-high 266 yards, one shy of the school record, but it propels Augie to a 41-27 win over St. Cloud State. Well, when we come back, the final football games on the docket all were hosted by teams in the North Division. See if Minnesota Duluth could bounce back from a difficult opening loss in its home opener.
The Northern Sun Experience on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Dakota Land Honda.
And welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. Minnesota Duluth isn't used to losing in the regular season. In fact, over the past 3 years, the Bulldogs have lost just twice before the playoffs, both times to Minnesota State. Now, the Mavericks overcame a 17-point deficit to top the Bulldogs in the season opener, so UMD was hoping a little home cooking could get things going against Wayne State. Bo Bofferding on the 3-yard touchdown pass, 7-0 Bulldogs. Later in the first, Bofferding wide open after the corner blitzes, 29-yard touchdown, and it's 14-0. His last name may not be Jackson, but this Bo knows football. Finishing off the first with a touchdown on the ground, 18 yards, 21-0 UMD. Late second quarter, Minnesota Duluth continues to make big plays. Check out the extension by Jason Baltz. Change Baltz to Maltz because that was a smooth dive. Take another look, great grab in the end zone. Bulldogs take out their aggression on the Wildcats with a 48-7 victory. Meanwhile, the Mavs were looking to keep momentum from the season-opening win going at Northern State. Already up 6-0 and running for more, Connor Thomas splits the defense en route to a 14-yard touchdown. Minnesota State up 13-0. 13-3 now, Northern State not backing down. Kyle Lavond up top to Tyrell Anderson. 18-yard touchdown cuts it to 13-10 at halftime. But Minnesota State's defense pitches a shutout in the second half for the second straight game, adds a couple more scores on the board, and the Mavs are 2-0 with a 27-10 win at Northern State. The other big NSIC preseason favorite, Sioux Falls, traveled to Minnesota Crookston Saturday, and the Cougars took care of the business at hand. Luke Papillion had 244 yards and 5 touchdowns, including this one to Brady Rose. The Golden Eagles made this game fairly competitive for most of the first half, but they couldn't quite pull off the upset as USF tops UMC 45-21. Our final game of the weekend pit Upper Iowa at the University of Mary in Bismarck. Peacocks on the board first in style. Jared Edmonds with the one-handed catch in the end zone, 14 yards out, 7-0 Upper Iowa. And it worked so nice, why not do it twice? Edmonds with his second touchdown from Dimitri Morales, and it's 14 zip visitors. And guess what? It's three's company. Morales goes inside, outside, around back, spins, somehow finds Edmonds for his third score of the quarter. It's 21-0 Upper Iowa at that point, and they would go on to win 34-16 over Hugh Mary. Looking ahead to this upcoming Saturday, we'll start and end the day with some critical matchups. 2-0 Augustana travels to surprising 2-0 Minnesota State Moorhead. It's the only battle of undefeateds in Week 3. Other early games include the University of Mary at Minnesota State, 0-2 Concordia-St. Paul at 0-2 Minot State. Someone's going to get off the schneid in that one. At 3, Southwest Minnesota State takes on St. Cloud State. Meanwhile, our night games start at 6 o'clock with Upper Iowa hosting Minnesota Crookston, Wayne State taking on Northern State, Bemidji State against Winona State, and the big matchup of the day, Minnesota Duluth, currently 7th in the AFCA D2 National Poll, at the number 12 team in the poll, Sioux Falls. It's our Midcoast Sports Network tape-delayed game of the week. Alex Heinert and I will have the call for you, and the game will be rebroadcast on Tuesday, September 22nd at 9 p.m. only on Midcoast Sports Network. Well, coming up next, we'll run down the weekend that was in women's soccer and profile a new NSIC volleyball coach who hails from Brazil.
The Northern Sun Experience on Midcoast Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Dakota Land Honda.
And welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. Minnesota State soccer season got off to another great start last weekend as they swept a pair of Oklahoma teams. But a road trip started with an early conference tilt at Concordia-St. Paul. 14th minute, ball goes high in the air near the net, but Corey Cronforce and Jessica Bowe use their heads, and that gives the Mavs a 1-0 lead. 62nd minute now, Cronforce with another assist, this time to Kiana Nickel. And then Maddie Barant would finish it off with a rebound off the crossbar. Mavs win 3-0, but they actually suffer their first regular season loss in 2 years at Grand Valley State on September 13th. Meanwhile, on September 14th, Winona State traveled to Upper Iowa. The long pass gets stopped, but the Peacocks clear, and Katie Baker goes lefty for the goal for Winona State. That makes it 1-0 Warriors. Just 20 minutes later, check this out. Kelsey Foss with the long shot from midfield and the perfect header from Abby Bohansky for the goal. Check it out again, the ball never even hits the ground. Great execution by the Warriors, and that would be it for the scoring. Winona State tops Upper Iowa 2-0. Let's switch gears to volleyball now. Several NSIC teams at the Colorado Premier Challenge in Denver this past weekend, including Concordia taking on defending national champ Tampa. First set, Emma Lang throws the hammer down. Golden Bears starting to look like the team that won 7 national championships in a row. Second set, it's Lang once again with a cross-court kill, a great setup by Casey Williams. And the hits would continue. This time it's Heather Schiller with the killer placement Golden Bears spread it around well this game, 5 players with at least 6 kills, but it ends with a block at the net by Emma Lang. Concordia sweeps the defending national champions 3-0. Southwest Minnesota State would also beat the defending champions Tampa in the challenge. Concordia eventually fell in the tournament championship to Ferris State. Well, speaking of volleyball, the UMary volleyball team is right in the middle of the pack with a 5-4 record so far, but they're convinced they're on the rise in the North Division thanks to a helping hand from South America. Our Marauder correspondent Marissa DiCandido explains.
Growing up in Brazil, volleyball wasn't always Thais Franca's sport of choice.
I hated volleyball at first. I need to admit that. I didn't like volleyball. I was a handball player. But then after that, I fell in love with the sport. And since then, I played in Brazil with quite a few teams. And then I came here first in 2004.
One of those teams she played with in Brazil was a professional one. She then took her talents to the U.S., where she eventually ended up at UMary as a coach. She was the interim head coach last season before taking over this year.
It brings us a lot more experience, and she has a lot more things to tell us, like all over the board, like talent-wise, technique-wise, mental toughness-wise, encouragement-wise, teammate-wise, like how to be a better teammate, and she's overall just really great.
Franca says moving into a coaching role has felt natural.
It was easy. The transition from player to coach for me was easy because it was there already. So when I was playing here in the United States, my coach used to say to my teammates, you need to go and look at Eve and ask her because she's my assistant coach on the court. Something that's unique for you girls.
She's already earned the respect of her players.
Our team has grown. Everyone's able to do every skill. Everyone can block, everyone can pass, hit, like our defense is hitting and our offense can pass. So overall, we're just more of a unit and a family this year and super close and just more mature women.
I really think she's going to be the one to turn our program around, so that's exciting too.
As for her coaching philosophy, Franca focuses on one thing.
Playing as a team. I always keep that in mind. I always tell the girls that it doesn't matter how good you think you are, because it's not only about you, it's about how well you perform around your teammates because it's a team sport.
The Marauders are thinking that mentality will help them make a mark in the competitive Northern Sun Conference.
Coming up next, it's DB's Picks. Now, one of my top plays was actually number 2 on ESPN SportsCenter this weekend. It's going to get a slight bump when we come back.
The Northern Sun Experience on Midcoast Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Dakota Land Honda.
And welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. It's time for the second week of DB's Picks. Now, normally it's the top 5 plays of the past week, but I'm feeling a little generous this week, so we're going to go with the top 6. And we start at number 6 with a perfectly executed play by Winona State Soccer. Kelsey Foss with a shot from midfield, and it ricochets off the head of Abby Bohansky for the goal. A bang-bang play, the ball never even touches the ground after its initial launch. Winona State would top Upper Iowa 2-0, and Bohansky's header starts our countdown. At number 5, we'll take that number, multiply it by 10 for a pair of 50-yard field goals. Winona State sophomore Carter McCauley nails this 53-yard field goal in the second quarter to set a new school record, a record that was broken just a quarter and a half later. Midway through the fourth, McCauley hits from 54 yards out. A couple of 50s didn't really make a difference in Winona State's 38-7 victory over Minot State, but it did land McCauley at number 5 of my top plays of the week. For number 4, we go with Mr. 4 touchdowns. Augustana's Charlie Hayes with a career game against St. Cloud State. 266 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns in the Vikings' 41-27 victory over the Huskies. The 266 yards were the most in an Augie game since Tyler Schulte in 2010, and while Carter McCauley broke the field goal record by 1 yard, Hayes' receiving total fell short by 1 yard of the all-time Vikings record of 267 yards. But whether it's day or night, this Charles was definitely in charge for Augustana. The Say Hayes kid checks in at number 4. At number 3, it's a victory nearly 20 years in the making. Southwest Minnesota State's Nate Hewitt comes back for the pass and gets into the end zone for the game-winning touchdown against Bemidji State. One of the Mustangs' leaders, Hewitt, gets just enough separation to haul on the pass, spin away from the defender, and score. The touchdown gave SMSU the lead over Bemidji with just 21 seconds left, and they would hang on for their first win over the Beavers since 1997. Now, Nate Hewitt was just 3 years old the last time SMSU topped Bemidji State, so it only makes sense that he gets the play number 3 of the past week. For number 2, we go to Bismarck. Upper Iowa's Jared Edmonds with a one-handed, left-handed touchdown against UMary. Take another look, not only does he secure the catch with just one hand, he also gets the pass interference call. The flag obviously doesn't matter, but it still makes the catch more impressive. That was the first of Edmonds' 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, as Upper Iowa topped UMary 34-16. The Peacocks start the season 2-0 for the second straight year, and the one-handed grab comes in at number 2. But our number 1 play is easily the final play of the game between MSU Moorhead and Concordia-St. Paul. With 3 seconds left, Jake Hodge rolls out, goes nearly 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, puts up a prayer, and it's answered by Corey Ambrose in the back of the end zone. Here it is again, the Dragons drove 94 yards in less than 40 seconds, all capped off by this touchdown as time expires. The Dragons storm the field to celebrate. They're 2-0 for the first time since 2006, and they get their second win of the season with the number 1 play of the past week. A big thank you to all of our NSIC member schools who contributed their video. We'll take you on another Northern Sun experience next week.